Welcome back to East Coast DNA. Today's guest, we have Chloé Caroline. Welcome, Chloé.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Chloé, as we were just discussing, we'll get the first item out of the way
Yeah,
immediately. You are calling today from California, but
I am.
you are unique for
Yeah,
one of our guests that you have dual citizenship.
I
You're
have dual citizenship, yes.
amazing. So the Ontario ties is family, but you
Yeah,
were born in California.
yeah. So I was born in California. Most, if not all of my family pretty much lives in Canada.
Mhm.
Got, some family in like South Carolina and stuff, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then my most of my family is in Kingston area or went to Queens, and yeah, I lived there back and forth till I was about 4. Went to preschool there. Spent
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and then I would spend like all of my summers there, like 3 months out of the year. We have a little cottage up near Kingston as well.
Yeah, that's one thing I get from a little bit of the research. I'm a beach person living down on the East Coast in Nova Scotia, so I have beaches readily accessible to me.
What are you saying?
But I've discovered a lot of my musician friends are actually lake people, and it sounds like that would be your family as well. They're spending
Yeah,
summers on a lake in Ontario.
definitely. Yeah, and I'm kind of again kind of mixed because I grew up in Manhattan Beach, so literally by the beach, in a beach town. But yeah, would spend all of my summers at the lake, and so I think that's also why like I probably would be a surfer if it had
Yeah.
not been for that. Like I did like go surfing like a little bit with my dad and stuff as a kid, but I never quite got into it as much, and I think it's because every summer I was at the lake.
And now I'm kind of curious, and maybe you hadn't considered this aspect, but with being back and forth between the two different cultures, even though we're very similar,
Sure.
I'm curious. You started with music early on, and I'm where it would be more so like journaling, turning into songwriting at a
Yeah.
young age.
Yeah.
But as far as having that musical appetite at a young age, I
Mhm.
know some of it comes from directly from your parents,
Yeah.
but did you have exposure to that with the kind of cottage summer vibe with people
Oh,
pulling out the guitars and singer-songwriter style?
yeah, 100%. Like I feel like most of my core memories are around, a fire pit with my dad playing guitar, my uncle, my cousins, and just singing, and also just honestly like listening to different soundtracks, different bands like on the lake just when we're out and about on the boat. I mean, I've like such fond memories of my parents playing, Elton John like on repeat in our cottage, or just all the summer classics too that you that you hear, whether it's like Sweet Home Alabama or like just all of those. And so I have very fond memories of music being part of my summers.
And now some of the names that you just dropped there and the ones that I was reading, like in your press release and in
Yeah.
other articles that I saw, there's a lot of common names that you see show up, like
Yeah.
famous superstar singers. But
Yeah.
there was one name that I saw pop up, and I was kind of curious if you could explain why it was there. I'm aware of who it is, but I
Yeah.
saw New Radicals listed in one of them.
Yes. Yes.
So what's the connection for you? I'm trying to figure out with your age, the era
Yeah.
that New Radicals would have been like
Yeah.
big. Because they
Yeah.
were like there was an era where they were a big name.
Yeah. So
So
I
how does that tie? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I think they were pretty big, like early 2000s, right? And I was really young, but I remember my dad always playing them, and specifically like "You Get What You Give" was like one of my
Yeah.
favorite songs of theirs. But I also was a huge fan of the movie "A Walk to Remember," and that
Okay.
soundtrack is incredible. Like it really is. It's amazing. Switchfoot's on there, like a bunch of artists, but New Radicals, there's a couple of their songs, and so I fell in love with them even more, and just love like the feel good nature of it and the timeless nature of it. I mean, like I remember playing it and my grandma was just like bopping, and she's like, "What is this?" And like it was just so crazy, to see that. And that just like they have like melodies upon melodies, and the lyrics have intention behind them. still, you know, and like that's the cool thing for me, like as a singer-songwriter and an artist who loves catchy melodies, but also loves meaningful lyrics.
Sure. And now a lot of the other influences were definitely folk, singer, songwriter. There's all those type styles, which would explain where you're getting the
Yeah.
lyrical influences and picking up a guitar eventually.
Yeah.
But is that really the new radicals is where you're
Oh yeah.
getting that's your pop sensibility kind of
I
early
would
influence there?
say, yeah, 100%. And just them being, I mean, especially that song in particular, it's so positive, but it's also,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? But it's real. It's not like
Yeah.
fake positive in a way, you know what I mean? Like there's like, there's both. And the honesty is there. And I love that. And so that's definitely contributed. And I think too, they were influenced by a lot of different genres. You know, he's got definitely some kind of soul vibes in his voice,
Hmm.
vibes, 70s vibes, but also has this like catchy pop, you know, sensibility. So 100% kind of, yeah,
And
influenced.
yeah, I did Google it just to see if it would pop up. Did you ever cover it?
Yeah. I haven't covered, I've wanted to cover it so
Yeah.
bad. Michelle Branch covered it like years ago, and I was a huge Michelle Branch fan. So I think it's time we
Yeah.
bring it.
And now that kind of leads to another thing too. I do see that you've had a lot of varied successes. You've had some sync placement and you've had sold out shows down in the US. You have a following up here as well. But with the independent part and the do it yourself part, I can see a lot of similarities between you and other people that I've interviewed on this podcast. You were somehow able to work with people like Disney while still being an independent artist, which is really unusual and commendable at the same time. How did you pull that off?
Yeah, that was wild. I was in college at the time, and that's when I started building a fan base, social media, and as that was happening, I was getting some like online radio station ads, just you know, different places, and somehow I'm pretty sure somehow like Radio Disney found out. I don't even know. I think it could have been through a programmer or something.
Yeah.
Um, and they were starting up Radio Disney Country as well at the time. In my music, I was living in Nashville. It was definitely more country, I would say. I called it California country at the time. And and yeah, I went in for an interview. I like flew back to LA, and wasn't expecting anything but like a hi, nice to meet you, thanks for coming in. And they were so sweet and ended up yeah, adding my song, adding my music video that we literally shot in like 15 minutes when the sun was going down, like for $0 on Disney Channel. And the relationship kind of just grew from there. And yeah, I'm really grateful. Specifically, Phil Guarini at the time was the head of Radio Disney, and he's not there anymore, but he was a huge champion of mine in
I'm
it.
sure that that made things easier for some people coming after you as well, without really knowing for sure, just that you would have set a precedence that, that type of relationship can work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's just it's so inspiring that a radio station would, you know, they should more should, but they
Hmm.
don't, and they do have so much pressure from labels and you know even just listeners wanting to, of course, hear top 40 radio and hear what they know. And yeah, so it's really difficult for indie artists to get that kind of exposure, and so when it happens, it's a big deal, and it does set a precedent for sure.
And now you playing guitar, I realize it would predate that a little bit, so we kind of glossed over a period there. You had an illness around age 11,
Mhm.
so that gave you, it sounds like a lot of time in isolation where you were able to focus on learning something like guitar. So once again, commendable that you're able to focus on something positive.
Mhm.
Now, I don't want to go anywhere you don't want to talk about. I don't
Oh
know
no,
what
I'm
illness you
open
had,
book.
but was that a long period of time in your life?
It wasn't. The most serious amount of time was between the ages, I would say, of, you know, 11 and 13 about. It kind of like lingered a little bit after that, but specifically like 11, 12, that age, sixth, seventh grade was definitely a difficult time. Yeah.
Now, with your journaling going in parallel with what you were doing with guitar, did you find that era that you leaned more positive rather than negative? It sounds like you did.
Yeah, for me, I had this very newfound perspective on things, even at that age, because it really was that pivotal, wow, time where you're kind of in between childhood and like a teenager, right? And so I had to kind of grow up a little bit faster, but
Sure.
also, kind of realize, well, I'm so blessed to be able to go to school. I'm so blessed to be able to go out for a walk. It was like all those little things. And I've always been very much an optimist sort of person, but like really had my perspective, um, I guess, flipped in a way, and just even appreciating just people in my life and just the regular, normal things that you get to do every single day as a healthy young person, that when you're a kid, it's toys, and it's just,
Yeah.
you don't think about that stuff really as much. Like, you're happy, but it's whatever. you know
Hmm.
like, I really had to zero in on that, and had just such an appreciation for it. So yeah, it definitely turned into therapy for, also the negative things. But I think that hope, at the end of my music was kind of what was keeping me going. It was like kind of like that reminder.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
So now you're able to fully flesh out songs, like you have all different aspects there that you're able, but I was also digging a little bit. I didn't get too deep in, but I was looking for some collaboration points.
Yeah.
I did read something without validating it, so 100% I'm relying on you to tell me if it's true or not. But
Cool.
did you work with Ben Harper?
Yes. Well, kind of. He didn't produce, well, he kind of, yeah, he produced part of my song.
How did that
And
collaboration
his
happen?
guitar player, Jason Mazerski, was the one who really produced my song, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, like, yeah, he played on it or something. This was like a long time ago. I want to say Jason knows my dad, actually, their friend.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how that relationship started.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna have a side conversation about this in the near future because I was already picking your brain a little bit before we hit record, so
Yeah.
I won't go down there too much.
No,
But
yeah, yeah. I wish
uh,
I could say that we had a duet or something, or wrote a song together, but no.
well, actually, this is a good segue, and I do this all the time where I just think of one in the middle of the conversation and they're not planned, and then I
Yeah,
point out they're not planned for some reason. Maybe you could give me some tips on how to make the flow go better because you also have a podcast.
I do have a podcast. Yeah, no, you're killing it right now, honestly, and I appreciate you doing all your research. But yeah, no, I have my own podcast. It's called Unwritten. I co-host it with a girl in Canada, and Shauna Portuno is her name. And yeah, I really had wanted to do a podcast. She had been doing one herself, and she had me on, and we just kind of clicked, same sort of vision about how we want to help people, and spirituality as well, and just a bunch of different things. And so I was like, would you want to be my co-host? Like, I want to start this podcast. You have kind of some knowledge there, and we're already having these great conversations. And so I was like, it'd be really cool to kind of do this podcast and have series topics,
Mhm.
separate them into three parts, and basically have her and I talk about it, then bring on a host of our choice, and then have people be able to self-nominate themselves or somebody else. So I could be interviewing anybody, because some regular people that have amazing stories or advice don't always get the platform to share. So yeah, that's kind of where that began.
That's amazing, and it was a nice a little bonus for me because as a podcaster, I like to meet other podcasters, but now I have something extra to listen to on the side. I've added that into my queue.
Amazing.
I'm
Thank
curious now too, and I have a little bit of personal insight because of that connection.
Mhm.
how does, like, becoming a podcaster for me originally was, it was a hobby that just kept getting bigger and
Yeah.
different focus. But part of it that I wasn't aware of that is kind of a necessity, and something that you're probably yourself a little bit more aware of, is the influencer piece of it. And
Right.
you have a huge following on that end of things. I think like you're into the like a couple 100,000 or more.
Yeah. hmm
So how does that translate into your music?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I would say it definitely, well, of course, having an amazing supportive fan base. I've had people that are still sticking around from when I was a teenager and releasing music. So that's just really, really cool. And obviously I've changed and shifted too. And so that they've stuck along is amazing. But it's really cool to also get to collaborate with brands, different brands. And you can do just so many different things that without
Hmm.
having to necessarily rely on a label, for example, like finding a cool brand that shares similar values and alignment, and just doing something creatively. They're already doing things that are creative. I'm doing things that are creative. Let's amplify it together. And so I've gotten to create my own jewelry line with brands. It was, inspired by songs that I've released. I've gotten to have sponsorships of music videos. That was really cool. And yeah, you never know.
And unofficially or officially, is the network out there the Chloe Caroline's crew? Like,
Technically, yeah. That's been since I was like, I didn't even give it that name. I don't even know where it came from. Somebody came up with it and it's just continued on, I guess. But yeah, that was like back in like 2015 or something.
that's fun. I have a like a Kiss Army pin over here, so I think that you should lean into that with some of your marketing. Maybe get some T-shirts done up or
Right?
some buttons or
I
something.
know. I honestly should. Somebody was like, "That's kind of a lame name," and I'm like, "I don't know. It's kind of cool though. It's like the three C's."
I like it. It's easy to remember too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, getting back into your music career,
Mhm.
this year alone, which we're only halfway into the year, you started off with a dance single, like a remix,
Yeah.
and then you had a series of singles that culminated into a 4-song EP.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
that you just released.
So yes, and I've been doing what's called a waterfall release, which is where
Yep.
you release single every month, 2 months, whatever. And it had been those since I was like on that trajectory, like very much so. And then November was kind of like the last time I'd released a single. And anyways, so then kind of picked it back up again. And so I'd released those three, then just released When We Were Older. They came out, and I do have one more that's coming out in July with technically what is the EP.
Okay. Okay.
That'll be the Awakening Volume 2, all of those songs. But yeah.
And I did notice too, as far as like you mentioned, like the waterfall release, like because I interview a lot of musicians, I hear about that a lot.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that, like yourself included, artists lately have been kind of tweaking it a little bit based on feedback from their own audience or what they're seeing for their own numbers. So it is a little different.
Mhm.
Like I said, you can get a collection of all the singles so far,
Yeah.
and then you're doing those bigger collections of volume one, volume two to
Yes.
pull everything together. So is
Yeah.
there a physical component for it with you?
Like a CD or something.
Yeah.
I would love that. I think, and I did like a little poll with my fan base on Instagram specifically, about whether anybody would want to buy vinyl. And to my surprise, like honestly, like I was kind of surprised. People were like, yes, like please do that. So if I can get enough people on board to do vinyl, I would do that. It's kind of expensive, but if I can get enough people, I would do that for sure. And then it's always fun to have some like hard CDs specifically for shows and stuff
Hmm.
to sign, even though I don't even know if people have CD players.
It is a weird demographic because I float in and out of using CDs myself, but
Yeah.
being that I'm around a lot of musicians, I like to pick up physical media when I can. I have a lot of autograph stuff. But as far as other people and they're listening, new cars don't have them.
Right. Yeah.
But like any old car nowadays, almost
Yeah.
guarantee has it.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
the
kind of
thing.
funny.
Yeah, they still exist, and again, it's just giving somebody something that is physical. I mean, that is such
Right.
a different like thing, like even mentally to like have of an artist, and then I think people obviously the vinyl thing is it really is like making a surge, and it's been coming back for a while now, and obviously you can really play it if you have a record player, but also just to have as like a memento is really cool. So it's kind of like my vibe. I'm an old soul, so I
Yes.
would love to do that. It'd be so epic.
And now, as far as the more modern means of connecting with your fans, like we covered the fact that you have the podcast Unwritten out there, so people can go out and subscribe to that. Now, social media, what is your handle on social media for people to look for?
Yeah, so got a couple. Instagram, it's just at Chloe Caroline. Twitter and TikTok at I'm Chloe Caroline. YouTube, Chloe Caroline Music. Facebook, Chloe Caroline Music. Got a website, chloecaroline.com. And then my number is actually in all of my bios. So people can text me, and it's actually me. It's not a robot. I am
Cool.
the person receiving text and responding. So that's always fun too because they've been able to really build that one-on-one connection with fans. I mean, literally some that I know, who their family is, and we,
Mhm.
what for a living, and it's really cool to have that.
But that's amazing. That's a little unique. I can't think of any other artist that does that.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting, but I'm just, it's cool to have your diehards and to be able to like
Mhm.
build that connection with people because especially with Instagram and stuff, or TikTok, the people that follow you don't always see your stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's best friends of mine, I don't see their content sometimes, and it sucks. Honestly, it sucks.
Yeah.
But to be able to have like another way to connect with them is really cool. And also, you just can't ever be 100% reliant on social media because the world is always changing. We have no
Mhm.
idea. Like, I don't think we're gonna wake up tomorrow and Instagram's gone, but you really don't know. And
True.
yeah, to have another way to connect with these people, it's cool.
And so for people that wanna listen to the music, I was listening to it on Spotify, so I would imagine that you're on most of the streaming platforms.
Yeah, every streaming platform, pretty much. Yeah, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, Amazon. Yep.
Amazing. Now, that's very easy for people to go out there and find you, but I'm curious as far as tour dates,
Yeah.
do you have anything coming up for performances? I'm kinda curious too because the summer months are when
Yeah.
you used to be in Canada.
Right. Yeah. So I was just in Toronto. I was playing Canadian Music Week. So I had two shows there. I think it was like 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
um, that was really fun because I actually had never played in Canada before.
Okay.
Never. And so I was supposed to play Canadian Music Week the year before, and the dates just didn't end up working out. And so yeah, I kind of made that my goal, and I'm hoping to play up there again soon. And then I came back to LA, and I just played the Troubadour here last Monday, so that was really exciting. That was really really awesome. And then yeah, I've got a couple shows in Napa that are coming up. I'm playing a little festival this weekend, also in California. But yeah, no legit tours yet. That is my goal though. So we're just gonna put it out there
Yeah.
and hope that it happens.
Well, definitely over the next few months, if you have any dates that you wanna help publicize to some of your new fans from this show, or if you happen to be coming up and hitting the East Coast of Canada, definitely let us know and we'll do another little chat leading up to it so people are aware that you're gonna be on site.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I usually play out with a song, and I typically just ask the artist what they want to play. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would play When We Were Older because that just came out on Friday. So my
Awesome.
yeah, new single, new music video, When We Were Older. I'm super excited about it. So that one.
And now that song, I'm aware of that song because I've been listening to it.
Yeah.
So that is a breakup song.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Post breakup thoughts in a way. It's kind of like that moment when you step away from a relationship and you kind of realize, okay, this is what I've learned. I'm curious what they have learned, and also, what would it have been like if we had met now, or old, even when we were older, once we'd like kind of already been through the lessons learned. And that was kind of where I was at. Like, would it be different, or were we just always kind of never meant to work? And yeah, just kind of these like hypothetical sort of thoughts that,
It's a nice
ah,
romantic acceptance of a breakup. I think that's like a
yeah, and
phase.
it was really weird because it was like I kind of I knew that it was over, 100%. I'd walked away from it, but it was kind of just still one of those things of like trying to mentally um find the meaning in the relationship, especially it was 5 years and I was so young, and you kind of think, oh, this is it, this is my person,
Hmm.
you know and when you're kind of starting over again with this new insight, yeah, it was an interesting song to write, and I think I was still in the healing stages. 100 absolutely was when I was writing it, so I have even more perspective now looking back, but that's always interesting too. Like releasing a song like later, and you're like, I
Yes.
don't know if I agree with this line anymore, but somebody will.
Yeah. I've actually had that happen where I've taken a different meaning and
Yeah.
then met the artist and learned what the actual meaning was, and then
Right.
had to kind of juggle that in my head listening to the
Yeah.
song in the future. So
Yeah. And then I've had songs too where I've written them with one intention behind it. And then over time, as again, I've developed or things have changed, like my meaning has flipped on it. And it still works, but it's like a completely different intention than before, which is
yes. Well, for all the listeners out there, we'll play off with When We Were Older. And I'll be listening to Unwritten probably as soon as we get off this. I'm waiting for things to process.
amazing. It's a
So,
very show.
yes, I definitely want to keep in contact. And this episode is right at the beginning of festival season here. So I'm going to have sporadic episodes throughout the summer as I'm jumping around the province, taking in different shows. So I don't think I'm going to be as far as Ontario this summer. So I'm probably not going to run into you up there, but definitely let us know if you're heading down our way.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
I didn't wanna break the news to your mama. I didn't wanna sway the truth either way. But the truth is I try it out. The second you finally figure out the right things to say when needed to change, I wish it wasn't too late. When you're young you make mistakes. Wish they knew you meant the moment. If you saw me on the street, sipping coffee, looking lonely, would you notice me enough to wanna get to know me? Would you know I'm nice and mess it up? By now you've loved and lost enough. That we wouldn't be over if we met when we were older. Maybe we wouldn't be over if we met when we were older. I now know how to stop myself before I cross the line. But tell me if we fought right now, could you do the same? How could I stick around when your love was so up and down? You begged me to stay and said you could change, by then it was too late. Are you finally awake? If you saw me on the street, sipping coffee, looking lonely, would you notice me enough to wanna get to know me? Would you know I'm nice and mess it true. You had the potential, you just never knew. I waited and waited, but boy, I outgrew. You and I were just two kids, we were young. And after the pain, I'm sure we both grown up. But looking back now when it's all said and done, maybe what I want is what you've become. If you see me on the street, sipping